My name is Gord Stellick, and I'm the morning host on the All Sports Show on the Fan 590 with Don Landry. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Hi, my name is Gwen Chapman. I'm the host of City TV's All About You. This is a new program that features the best of the African-Canadian community, and I'm pleased to be your host tonight.
And we're looking forward to an enjoyable evening. We're going to try to keep things moving and to get things underway. We invite you to rise and join singers Tracy and Makala Tomlinson in the singing of our national anthem.
Good evening, everyone. We will now start the Canadian National Anthem. Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all our sons' command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north, strong and free. From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for
Thank you very much, Tracy and Michaela, for that wonderful performance. At this time, we'd like to recognize the co-chairs of this year's dinners, who have worked tirelessly to make tonight possible. John Prato, can we give him a round of applause? It takes a lot of work to make this happen. Gay Mitchell, Steve Gupta, Joseph Vitali, and most of all, thank you to you and your committee for all the hard work you've done. Thank you all for coming out.
We're also going to acknowledge a number of special guests with us this evening. Like when I work with the Leafs, same thing now. They're not in the playoffs, so everyone's able to make it tonight. No one had excuses to duck out, so this works out well. And we don't know where they're situated, maybe if they can wave, but certainly give them a round of applause when we join in welcoming former premiers Bill Davis and Mike Harris. Also, Senators Hugh Segal and Trevor Eaton. On the federal side, Barrie MP Patrick Brown and Ministers Jim Prentice and Jim Flaherty. And Chief Sharon Henry Stinson from the Rama Majinaning First Nations.
Now, I think we have about, how many thousands here? Maybe a couple of thousand? Can I get a real round of applause? Come on, come on, let's get some spunk in here. We're very pleased to have a number of the municipal leaders in attendance tonight. There are so many that it's impossible to recognize each of you individually, but would ask you please if you could rise to be recognized.
And again, thank you for all your work. Thank you for coming. And what we'll do now is, ladies and gentlemen, please turn your attention to the video screens and join us in welcoming your Ontario's PC Party Caucus. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to bring them up here, starting off from Waterloo, Wellington, Ted Arnott.
From Haliman, Norfolk, Brent Toby Barrett.
Representing the Halton riding, Ted Chudley.
From Simcoe North, Garfield Dunlop.
Representing Whitby Ajax, Christine Elliott.
The MPP from Oxford, Ernie Edmond.
From Erie Lincoln, Tim Hudak.
Representing Oak Ridges, Frank Cleese.
From Cambridge, Jerry Martignac.
Representing Perry Sound, Muskoka, Norm Miller.
From York North, Julia Monroe.
From the riding of Durham, John O'Toole.
Representing Leeds, Grenville, Bob Runciman.
From Burlington, Joyce Savelin.
The MPP for Haliburton, Victoria Brock, Laurie Scott.
The Dean of the Caucus from Lanark, Carlton, Norm Sterling.
Representing Barrie, Simcoe, Bradford, Joe Tescona.
From Simcoe Gray, Jim Wilson.
From Kitchener-Waterloo, Elizabeth Whitmer.
And last, but certainly not least, from Brentford, Pissing Pembroke, John Yakubaski.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Tory Caucus. Well, as well here, it's getting a little crowded up here. It's going to get more crowded because we're going to welcome a number of our nominated candidates who are also with us tonight. Our candidate from the riding of Etobicoke Lakeshore, Tom Barlow.
Our Brampton West candidate, Mark Beckles.
From Oakville, Rick Byers.
Our candidate from the riding of London Fanshawe, Jim Chapman.
From the riding of Trinity Spadina, Tyler Curry.
Our candidate from Scarborough Southwest, Gary Crawford.
From Prince Edward Hastings, Eric Denuden.
From our Peterborough candidate, Bruce Fitzpatrick.
Oops. Our candidate from Dufferin Caledon, Sylvia Jones.
From Etobicoke North, Mohammed Qasim.
Our Lambton-Kent Middlesex candidate, Monty McNaughton.
From the riding of Etobicoke Centre, Andy Pringle.
From Toronto Centre, Pamela Taylor. And from Stormont, Dundas, South Glengarry, Chris Savard. Ladies and gentlemen, all the candidates, nominated candidates.
I'm talking about days not too far gone by, where this province was not the little engine that could, it was the big engine that did. People are buying a dream when they buy these tickets. They expect that the system's going to be fair and trustworthy. They expect you will take those interests to heart and deal with those problems when you find out about them. You have seen this throughout as nothing more than a small communications issue when people's money was being stolen. Why won't you simply do the right thing? What are you trying to hide? Appoint an independent investigation if you have nothing to hide, and let them look at your office and the minister's office.
I honestly see no better leader on the horizon. His ability to understand the situation and then diligently working to implement their solutions.
There's way too many job losses, and with John Tory's business background, he is the man to deal with these issues.
I've had a discussion with Mr. McGinney in the last 24 hours, and it reconfirmed that I was making the right decision.
A large part of the reason why I wanted to run for the PC Party of Ontario was the leader, John Tory.
I first worked with John when he asked me to be one of his campaign co-chairs during the mayoralty race. Following that, he asked me if I would be one of the co-chairs for the fundraising for his leadership bid. And then following that success, John asked me if I would chair the PC Ontario Fund. And throughout all these experiences, I've just been incredibly impressed by John's work ethic, his integrity, his desire to make change. In fact, I'm so impressed with him that I'm now a candidate in the Etobicoke Centre.
He just rolled up his sleeves and said, you know what? I really want to help.
I've taken a leave of absence from the Nelson Mandela Children's Fund to join Team Tory. Someone once said that unless your deeds outrun your words, there's no point in running. And when I think of those words, I think of our friend John Tory.
The problem the Premier has here is he is confusing the public interest with his own partisan interest, and that's why he says...
We can't afford to continue with Mr. McGuinty's disrespect and disregard for your money. I intend to change the way government does business. We must stop the waste and see some accountability for a change. I've never known any other way, in business or in family life. The same rules must apply to government as well.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Barbara Hackett and the leader of the Progressive Conservative Party of Ontario, John Tory.
Let's get it started in here.
And the bass keeps running, running, and running, running, and running, running, and running, running, and In this context, there's no disrespect, so when I bust my rhyme, you break your necks. We got 5 minutes for us to disconnect from all intellect and let the rhythm affect. To lose our inhibition, follow your intuition, free your inner soul and break away from tradition. Cause when we be out, bullets bullet we out. You wouldn't believe how we wow shit out. We burn it till it's burned out, turn it till it's turned out. Act up from northwest, east side. Everybody, everybody, let's get into it. Get stoked, get it started, get it started, get it started. Let's get it started. Let's get it started in here. Let's get it started. Let's get it started in here. Let's get it started. Let's get it started in here. Let's get it started. Let's get it started in here. Yeah. Lose control of body and soul. Don't move too fast, people, just take it slow. Don't get ahead, just jump into it. Y'all hear about it? The P's will do it. Get started, get stupid. Don't worry about it, people will walk you through it step by step like an infant new kid. Inch by inch with a new solution. Transmit hits with no delusion. The feeling's irresistible and that's how we move it. Everybody, everybody, let's get into it. Get stoked, get it started, get it started, get it started. Let's get it started. Let's get it started in here. Let's get it started. Let's get it started in here. Let's get it started. Let's get it started in here. Let's get it started. Let's get it started in here. Yeah. Running. Come on, y'all. Let's get cool. Let's get cool. And while out, get cool. Let's get cool. And while out, get cool. Let's get cool. And
let's get ill, that's the deal. At the gate, we'll bring the bug-dot drill. Just lose your mind, this is the time. You can't stand still, twist and bang your spine. Just bob your head like me, Apple D. Up inside your club or in your Bentley. Get messy, loud and sick. Your mind fast, no more on another head trip. So come them now, do not correct it. Let's get ignorant, let's get hectic.
Everybody, everybody, let's get into it. Get stoked, get it started, get it started, get it started. Let's get it started. Let's get it started in here. Let's get it started. Let's get it started in here. Let's get it started. Let's get it started in here. Let's get it started. Let's get it started in here.
I was just asking Barb if I had any lipstick on me after that, but ladies and gentlemen, I'm just delighted you're here. I should tell you that Barb and I don't get to go to a lot of intimate dinner parties like this anymore, so it's a real treat. Now, I told Barb this wasn't just any ordinary dinner party, and I'm being serious about this. We worked hard, and we incurred a little bit of extra cost so that we could tell you that 100% of what is on the plate, the beef, the vegetables, all grown right here in the province of Ontario. And I think that's an important message to send. Now, aside from that, you might ask me how I got Barb here. And it was simple. I just said we were meeting a few friends for drinks at the convention center, and then we'd go somewhere for dinner. It works every time. And it works every time. But I'm obviously delighted that she's here. She is the love of my life, and she's my #1 bedrock supporter. I'm also very happy that our eldest son, John, is here with his wife, Melanie. The other kids are off at various schools at considerable expense to the management, allegedly studying. I'm delighted as well that my mother and father, Liz and John Tory, are here together with my one and only very special sister, Jennifer Tory. They're also huge supporters. Jennifer is now a big shooter at the Royal Bank of Canada, and given that we're now operating on a public service salary, I pay more attention to my bankers, and I'm having serious second thoughts about all those times that I pulled her hair when we were younger. So I apologize, Jennifer. I seek mercy from you. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you met here on the stage tonight the men and women of our caucus, to whom I owe so much for the dedication and the service and the advice and the hard work that they put forward each and every day. And you met some of the great new candidates that we're going to bolster the ranks of our team with in this upcoming election. Yeah, please do give them a round of applause.
These are people, ladies and gentlemen, some for many years and some for the first time, who've had their courage to put their name on a ballot. And that's important to the well-being of our system and to making sure we have good government in Ontario. Now, one man you didn't meet will also be a PC candidate in the October election, but at my request, he is still sitting as an independent member of the legislature. We thought that was the right thing to do. But I'm delighted that he is here tonight, and I want to introduce to you the present and future member of Provincial Parliament for Mississauga South, Mr. Tim Peterson, who's right over here. Tim, stand up. I didn't say this to Tim's mother and father, who I had the privilege of meeting. They're 94 and 93 years old, I think. They live in London, Ontario, and I went to visit them after Tim joined our party. I didn't say this to them, but the way I look at it, it's one brother down and two to go. Ladies and gentlemen, I just take each day as it comes, and a lot of the days bring surprises. I heard this morning when I woke up, many of you I'm sure did too, that David Miller this morning has given up his card in the New Democratic Party. So I started to think to myself, well, never mind, we won't go there for tonight. Now, just so you know, it's not all tough out there on the campaign trail. I was in North Bay about a month ago. I was doing an early morning radio interview. It was about 20 minutes long, and near the end of the interview, about 8:15 in the morning, the host said there was just one more question he wanted to ask me, and I said, sure, anything you like. And he said, would I agree to have a beer with him? And he pulled two cold beers out from underneath the table. This is at 8:15 in the morning. We were on the air during this entire exchange, and I said to him that I hadn't had a beer at 8:15 in the morning since I was about 19, when for some reason I used to think that was actually a good idea. But sure, why not? So he snapped the tops off these bottles, and there we sat on the air, sipping the beers and talking. A minute or two later, I came to my senses, and I asked him what I was supposed to do about the fact that I had a meeting with the mayor of North Bay a half an hour later, and that what I would say to him when he asked me why I had liquor on my breath at 8:45 in the morning. The radio host, helpful as always, told me that was my problem. So that's what it's like out on the campaign trail. You have to always be prepared for the unexpected and always be prepared to have a barley sandwich for breakfast, whether that really would be your first choice or not. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to... Are you clapping because I drank beer at 8:15 in the morning? I used to think nothing of that. As you may have read, there were various other things I used to do at 19, including listening to Jimi Hendrix, but I don't do that anymore either. But anyway, we won't go there for tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to begin by extending a sincere thank you to the organizers and to the committee who put this dinner together. In particular, there were 4 co-chairs who were introduced to you earlier, but I just want to say a very personal thank you to them: John Prado, Gay Mitchell, Joe Vitale, and Steve Gupta. This is a lot of work, and they work really hard. I also want to thank each and every one of you for your personal and for your financial support. It's obviously very important to the party, and I'm most grateful for the fact that you're here. You know, when I became leader of this party 2.5 years ago, our party was $10.6 million in debt. And today, through the hard work and the generosity of Ontarians like you and the people who put this dinner together, the Ontario Progressive Conservative Party is debt-free and is now building its campaign fund. This is more than just an accomplishment to be proud of. It gives us a foundation to run a strong PC campaign in every single riding, without exception, in Ontario this October. Tonight is our opportunity to demonstrate our pride in Ontario, in our diverse communities, in our economy that is still capable of so much, and in our common faith that the past 4 years notwithstanding, Ontario has a very bright future indeed. And so tonight I want to talk about leadership. I want to talk about the kind of leadership that it takes to build a better Ontario, because I believe this will be the central issue in the next election. Leadership is more than comparing one person to another, though I will tell you I will put my track record up against Dalton McGuinty's any day. I was hoping you'd clap for that. Ladies and gentlemen, it's also about taking stock of the direction in which Ontario is drifting and asking ourselves a very important question: can we do better? I believe we can do better, but ladies and gentlemen, it will not happen automatically, and it won't happen without change.
People know leadership when they see it. Whether it's at home or at work or on the farm or in the community or anywhere else, there's a common checklist for the qualities that we expect from our leaders. Leaders set an example. Leaders keep their word. Leaders are not afraid to make tough decisions. Leaders have a plan. Leaders determine the right course of action and they follow it even when the going gets tough. In fact, they follow it especially when the going gets tough. And real leaders welcome accountability. The people in this room know that real leaders don't just welcome accountability, they thrive on it. Now I ask you, do these qualities describe Dalton McGuinty? And sadly, I would suggest the answer is no. Dalton McGuinty n'a pas tenu les promesses qu'il a faites aux Ontariens. Pour lui, politique et vote sont plus importants que vos intérêts. Dalton McGuinty vous empêche de travailler pour créer un Ontario meilleur. Il n'a pas fait les choix difficiles, jamais il ne veut accepter de responsabilités. Il n'est pas le chef fort dont l'Ontario a besoin. By breaking dozens of major promises he made to the Ontario people, by placing polls and politics ahead of the public interest, Dalton McGuinty has prevented all of us from working on a plan for a better Ontario. He has failed to make the tough decisions. He has ducked accountability at every turn. He hasn't been the strong leader Ontario needs. Now, as you may have heard, I once ran a couple of fairly big companies. I had a lot of help from Ted Rogers, but I once ran a couple of fairly big companies. One year during that time, and it was a wonderful time, we had serious problems with our internet service. Those problems affected hundreds of thousands of people. We didn't run, we didn't hide, we didn't look for somebody else to blame. Instead, I assembled the best team I could. I did what you would do. I assembled the best team that I could. I went on television to speak to our customers directly, and I accepted responsibility for the problem. And we then, as a team, committed to fixing that problem as quickly as possible, and then we fixed it. Leadership wasn't about a photo opportunity, it was about taking responsibility and getting something done. I also had the privilege and the pleasure of serving as the commissioner of a well-known football league during a challenging period in its history, and there's at least 3 of the owners who are here tonight continuing to do that important work for Canada. But you know, when we faced those challenges in the CFL, I didn't blame the players or the previous commissioners. Instead, the team of people we had there, the owners and the players and the management, we pulled together and we made the tough decisions necessary to get that great Canadian tradition back on its feet. Leadership in that case wasn't about explaining a problem away, it was about tackling that problem head on. I've also worked with many wonderful and dedicated volunteers for charitable causes like the United Way. And as many of you in this room will know, even in charity work, there are unexpected challenges that you face. For instance, I was the chair of the United Way campaign when the 9/11 tragedy struck. We didn't throw up our hands and just assume all the money would go to New York because a lot of people were wanting to donate there. We rolled up our sleeves and we came through for the local families who were relying on us. Leadership in that case was measured not by the best excuse we could find, but by the new record we set for the money that we raised. Ladies and gentlemen, like many of you, I have learned the important and sometimes hard lessons of leadership. And I am putting my name on the ballot because I want to put those lessons to work in building a better Ontario. The difficulties Ontario faces have not been caused by hard-working farmers or struggling skilled immigrants or seniors who have saved and built their whole lives. The decline we have seen is not the fault of students who want to learn and get ahead. It's not the fault of teachers who care deeply about the kids in their classrooms. These pressures don't come from the shop floor or the trading floor or the research lab or the pulp mill. No, in fact, they come from one place, and that is a directionless government that has not kept its promises, a government that has not been accountable, a government and a premier who don't have a plan for the future, and a government and a premier who have proven they are not up to the challenge. Now, unlike 2003, Mr. McGuinty now has a record. And you know what?
the record's not good. The massive and regressive health tax, the abandoning of families of children with autism, the coal power plants fiasco, the financial crisis facing our cities and towns, the chaos in our hospital emergency rooms, the despair in Ontario's north, a series of scandals and record of cover-ups. This record includes an approach to the rest of Canada which amounts to little more than blaming the federal government at every turn. Hardly nation-building that. And an unprecedented record of squandered tax dollars and mismanagement and waste. Ladies and gentlemen, these are hardly the examples of the accountability we expect from our leaders. But nowhere is this better illustrated than when it comes to the taxing and the spending of the McGuinty government. We all know the taxing side. Every Ontario taxpayer is now paying new taxes, and record taxes, and relentless taxes, and regressive taxes. And in fact, what we were promised was no new taxes at all. But just as bad as that is the complete lack of accountability on the spending side. Annual spending from a base budget when they started in office, the base budget they started with was $68.5 billion in 2003. 4 years ago, annual spending has increased by $22.4 billion since Mr. McGuinty took office. The budget this year will be $90 billion, an increase of $22.4 billion. That's $4,500 in new spending for each Ontario household. $750,000 in new spending for every hour Mr. McGuinty has been Premier. Now, real experienced leaders know that it's not how much you spend that really counts, but what you get and what you deliver for the money that you spend. So what do we get? What do you get for this $22.4 billion? Well, here's what we get. Emergency room wait times that are now 6 or 8 or 12 hours, many times the government's own benchmark, after the expenditure of $22.4 billion in additional tax money. Many more kids studying in split grades and portable classrooms. Increasing gridlock, meaning more people stuck in traffic, away from their jobs, away from their families. Ask yourself for just a minute whether anyone in this McGuinty government cares about value for money. I sit across from these people in the legislature, and I find myself asking that same question either directly or thinking it every single day. But I know what the right answer is, ladies and gentlemen. They should care because it's not their money, it's your money. And I can tell you I care deeply about it and about value for money. Mr. McGuinty can't possibly care about your hard-earned tax dollars when he spends so much and delivers so little. And not a minute's thought is given to the poor, old, ordinary taxpayer who goes to work, plays by the rules, pays the taxes, and yet when Mr. McGuinty has, as he does this year, hundreds of millions of surplus dollars, not a single penny is given back to the people who earned it. Not a single penny. Ladies and gentlemen, we will act very differently. We will act very differently. First of all, we would have begun this year in this budget to eliminate that regressive health tax. The government's own surplus projections prove Mr. McGuinty's feeble counter-argument to be false. You can invest more in health care and at the same time get rid of this tax. Their own numbers prove it. That's what a real leader will do, and that is what we will do when we are elected to government on October the 10th of this year. With the same growing budget surplus, because it's growing year to year over the period that the Minister of Finance projected, you could begin to eliminate the capital tax before 2010. If it's a good idea in 2010, then why isn't it a good idea to begin to eliminate this job-killing tax right now? If it encourages businesses to modernize and to stay competitive and to protect Ontario jobs, why should we not just be talking about it now? We should be getting on with it. And that's what a real leader would do. Ladies and gentlemen, these are some of the differences between Mr. McGuinty and me. Leadership is not about how you position for partisan advantage. It's about making decisions that make a difference for people and always keeping your eye on the results and making sure that you are obtaining results and obtaining that value for money that I talked about before. For example, Mr. McGuinty and I ask very different questions when we hear that a private clinic is willing to do knee replacements entirely at public expense, paid for with the OHIP card. I ask, are the principles of our single-payer OHIP system being respected? Will this help ease the backlog and provide quicker, more accessible care? I ask, will this make a difference to people waiting months and years in pain for those knee replacements? Mr. McGuinty and his high-volume health minister, they ask whether there are cheap political points to score. Could they possibly turn a good faith offer into an ideological debate about our healthcare system, even if the result is to make people wait in pain? A real leader would never let crass politics stand in the way of giving people what they need. Quality care. What they need is quality care on a timely basis, all paid for with their OHIP card. And I can tell you right now, ladies and gentlemen, I will embrace the kind of innovation, the kind of modernization, and the kind of change we need in order to get people better care faster. And that is worthy of applause, because that's what we should be doing. And ladies and gentlemen, it includes using technology to help us spend smarter. That's what a real leader would do. Now, when it comes to Ontario's economy, Mr. McGuinty and I again see entrepreneurs and investors and risk takers very differently. Mr. McGuinty believes they should be taxed and regulated and probably held in suspicion. When taxes or regulations change, often in secret, usually without any notice or consultation, Mr. McGuinty just assumes that people will get over it. To him, businesses are there to be milked. Well, I believe we have to earn investment in Ontario, and we have to earn investment staying here in Ontario, and that means respecting enterprise, and it means respecting the people who put their money and their ideas on the line. Those are the people who create jobs and opportunity for others. I reject milking these businesses. We don't need to milk these businesses. We need to nurture them. We need to help them create opportunities and jobs and grow our economy. We need a competitive and steady and reliable tax and regulatory climate if we're going to make Ontario a magnet for investment again. That is what a real leader must do. And ladies and gentlemen, real leadership also means showing resolve on one of the defining issues of our times, and that is the environment. There's a lot to do on the environment. You know, Ontario's Independent Environmental Commissioner's most recent report on the McGuinty record was called Neglecting Our Obligations. That's what he called it. An independent officer of the legislature, he called his report Neglecting Our Obligations. That's how he summarized the McGuinty government's records. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that neglect must stop. And with our plan, it will. First, let's look at global warming. The fight against climate change is the new normal, which we must all face. We cannot afford to pass this challenge on to our children and grandchildren. We must take meaningful, real steps to address greenhouse gas emissions, starting now. And real actions means the same thing as it does for most of you in what you do each and every day. It means real targets and real accountability for results. The Government of Ontario, it's interesting to note this, the Government of Ontario has never set a target for reductions in greenhouse gas emissions. Not for 2050, not for next year, not for next month. Well, we need targets. We need short-term targets. We need intermediate targets. We need achievable, believable targets to bring our emissions down. And I can tell you right now, a John Tory progressive conservative government will set as our interim goal achieving the first 10% reduction of emissions below 1990 levels by 2020. Now, this is a big job. When you think about it, what we have to do is we have to slam the brakes on our current growth in emissions.
growth that comes from both our increasing population and our tendency to use more. We would have to turn back the clock to 1990 levels through innovation and through doing all kinds of different things, and that is a big task in and of itself. And then, once we had succeeded in doing that, we have to cut that by 10% by 2020. Based on our past performance, that would be a real achievement. So how will we get there? Well, we will use first and foremost all of the tools of government. I talked before about government and leaders leading by example. We've got to use all of the tools of government to lead in the task of using less energy. And when we do consume it, we will consume it more efficiently. And that has to start with that government leadership that I talked about. I'm already on the record as calling for the Government of Ontario to lead the way in making Ontario a world leader in the energy efficiency of government buildings and workforce. It's got to happen. Conservation by all of us will be a cornerstone of getting us to where we want to be. But it also means being smarter in the way that we generate energy. We have to remove the barriers to investment in new green generation technologies. They don't represent the answer, but they represent a part of the answer going forward. Cogeneration, wind, geothermal, solar, they all have to be a bigger part of our generation mix in the future. And that means putting in place policies that will make them a reality. It's only going to happen with some leadership and with some incentives. And ladies and gentlemen, I'll say one more very important thing. For our environment, for our economy, for a secure energy supply and Ontario's future, we also have to get going on nuclear power as well. You know, others are afraid to talk about this, but while nothing is perfect, Ontario's nuclear power is safe, it is reliable, it is affordable, and it is greenhouse gas free. Mr. McGuinty has dithered for 4 years. Nothing has been done. We must meaningfully advance the process for building new nuclear capacity right away. And in the meantime, while we bring new generation of all kinds online, all of the different kinds that I mentioned, independent authorities tell us that we're going to have to be relying on coal for a while yet. Independent authorities tell us that. Mr. McGuinty, he promised to close all of Ontario's coal-fired generating plants by 2007. He stood in the legislature and he warned us that dirty air contributed to more than 1,800 premature deaths every year, and that the annual cost to the healthcare system was $1 billion. He said that's why we would have cleaner air by 2007, come hell or high water. Those were his words, hell or high water. Well, as you know, it's now 2007. The coal plants are still open, the air is still dirty, and the new technologies that could help us make a real difference remain a prisoner of Mr. McGuinty's coal fiction. That is not leadership. The coal plants will be a smog and a greenhouse gas problem until we turn them off or clean them up. We can't turn them off until we replace the power they generate. Independent experts say that will be at least 7 more years. Our energy security and thousands of jobs that depend on it are far too important to play politics here. The faster we complete our strategy of energy conservation and investment in new generation capacity of all kinds, the faster we can replace the coal plants. But I say to you, ladies and gentlemen, in the meantime, we must explore and whenever possible invest in technologies like carbon sequestration, innovative ideas that will help us meet the challenges of greenhouse gas reductions. And I will say one more very important thing about this. Until the day comes when we turn those plants off, we must do all that we can to clean them up. It was Dalton McGuinty, no other person, who stated that the dirty air contributed to 1,800 premature deaths every year and $1 billion a year in healthcare costs. By that measure, ladies and gentlemen, I suggest to you it would be irresponsible not to install clean air technology such as scrubbers, at least at Nanticoke, where they could do the most good. At least there.
Un vrai chef aurait installé ces apparatures il y a 4 ans. Nous les installerons quand nous serons élus. A real leader would have installed that technology 4 years ago. And when we are elected, that is what we will do. People think in different ways about the challenges of cleaning up the greenhouse gases and cleaning up the environment and moving to new sources of energy. I believe that if we harness the innovation of enterprise, if we work in partnership with people who have the ideas they want to put to work, we can guarantee a cleaner, greener environment that will both strengthen job security and open up new opportunities for us here in the province of Ontario. We have to remember that here in Ontario, we both drive cars and we make cars. And so I will look at the challenge of meeting our obligations on climate change as both a responsibility and an opportunity. But more importantly than anything else, I will get on with it. It's the kind of practical planning and implementation that I was responsible for every day as a business leader. And so I look at it as something that I know how to do, something that we've simply got to get on with. It's a practical challenge of implementation and planning. Ladies and gentlemen, people often ask me why I want to be Premier. When I'm visiting a business and I hear the management and the people on the shop floor tell me that they're forced to spend more time on government paperwork than they do making their products, I know why I want to be Premier. When I'm on the farms and I have hardworking farmers look me in the eye and tell me there's no future in farming for their kids, I know why I want to be Premier. When I see a $36 billion healthcare system that is generations behind the basic use of technology that you use all day, every day to manage properly, I know that as Premier I can add real value. When I meet with the members of Ontario's diverse communities, our Black communities and our Muslim communities and Asian communities and others, I see firsthand the talent and goodwill that exists in these communities. But when I see far too many of these good people and their kids still held back by misunderstanding or lack of access to opportunity, I know that I can make a real difference as Premier of this province. You know, I recently joined a group of friends who were raising money for the family of a child with autism. And they were raising that money so that that young couple could afford the treatment needed by their 4-year-old son, $73,000 a year for that treatment. When I heard that they have put their house up for sale to pay for that treatment, that they had to have their friends, or that their friends felt they had to have a fundraiser to help them pay for that treatment, and that these 2 young people were thinking of moving to Alberta because that government in that province will fund the same treatment for their child, I knew why I wanted to be Premier of this province. Ladies and gentlemen, I think it's time for a new beginning. A new beginning which puts investment and economic growth and social progress and fairness back at the center of our agenda. A new beginning which addresses, for real, our energy and environmental and healthcare challenges with the kind of can-do spirit that Ontario has always embodied. Il est temps que vous ayez un gouvernement qui vous dise la vérité. Il est temps que vous ayez un gouvernement qui vous fait confiance. Il est temps que vous ayez un gouvernement qui fait ce qu'il dit. Il est temps que vous ayez un gouvernement qui promet seulement qu'il peut accomplir et qui tient les promesses. It's time for a government, ladies and gentlemen, that tells the truth, that trusts the people, and that has the common decency to mean what it says and only to promise what it can deliver, and then to deliver on those promises. What amazes me, ladies and gentlemen, is that those aren't new rules. Those aren't rules that I had to invent. Those are the same rules that you live your lives by every single day, your family lives, your business lives. They're the same rules by which I did my job as a business and community leader, and those are the values that I would bring to the government of this province. We need new leadership. We need real leadership. We need a new Premier and a new team who can and will make a real difference. Ladies and gentlemen, I am ready to make a difference as Premier. We're assembling, as you could see here tonight, a great team that will be able to make a difference for people. With your help, together, let's get started on building a better Ontario. Thank you very much.